I will be speaking about some of the challenges and threats which come from artificial intelligence, as well as the opportunities, and trying to develop a Christian perspective on this topic. I'm going to go quite fast. I hope you have a handout available which has the text of much of what I will say in Romanian, and I aim to speak for about 30 minutes, and then the remainder of the time can be for discussion and question and answer. So you do not need any persuasion to see the speed of advance that is taking place in generative AI. And I think the speed of change will continue on into the future. It's going to be very hard to predict where we will be in 5 years' time. And the question we need to ask is, how is this changing our understanding of what it means to be human? And it's an interesting historical survey to see how over the last 400 years, even more, whatever the most advanced technology of the time, this is used as a model, a way of understanding our humanity. And so previously we've had precision clocks, we've had steam engines, we've had telephone exchanges, we've had the internet. All of these have been used by thinkers and philosophers as a model for understanding humanity. So we should not be surprised that now it is AI which is becoming the dominant metaphor in our society. And this metaphor changes the way we think. Metaphors have a profound influence on the way we think. We cannot think without metaphors. And therefore, the metaphors that a human being is an advanced information processing system is very powerful. And of course, it is an extremely reductionist metaphor. It is the human brain consists of an advanced neural network where the weights between neurons depends on the precise synapses, synaptic connections. We have something like 10 to the 14 synaptic connections in the human brain. And lo and behold, we now have neural networks instantiated in computers. They work on a simplified understanding of the neural mechanisms. They are now approaching the same level of complexity as the human brain, the same number of parameters. And they are modifying their weights in response to training in the same way that human brain modifies the synaptic connections in response to experience and education. And the argument goes, the uniqueness of the human species is our intelligence. Why have we been so successful in evolutionary history? It isn't because we have better claws. It isn't because we have stronger muscles, bigger teeth. So how have we been so successful? And the answer is, we have been successful entirely because of our intelligence, our information processing capacity of the brain. But now we are discovering another species, which is even more intelligent, and this will become the dominant species, because they will, in the evolutionary struggle, these alien intelligences will become the most powerful species on the planet. And I think it's very important to understand that these terms like information are very contested terms. Interestingly, information in a mathematical sense has a precise mathematical definition related to entropy. But this is very different from our human understanding of intelligence. You think of all the different aspects that human intelligence involves, including creativity, including like a musical intelligence, emotional intelligence, physical intelligence, in addition to cognitive processing intelligence. So that word is a very slippery word. Both information and intelligence are very slippery words that we should use with caution. They are only metaphors. And the problem is that AI has become a kind of distorting mirror. We look into this system, we say, oh, this is what it means to be human. But what it reflects back to us is a deeply distorted sense of what it means to be human. But I'm particularly concerned about the concept of simulation, the idea that generative AI systems can create an apparently perfect simulation, a simulacrum of a human person. They can create a simulation of human consciousness, of human agency, of human compassion and emotion, of human identity. And I think it is inevitable that simulated AI companions will become commonplace. Wherever we go, we are going to meet these simulated persons. We will meet them in our homes, on our smartphones. We will meet them in the workplace. They will be in our cars and in our transport systems. They will be in our hospitals and healthcare. Everywhere we go, we will meet these simulacra of human persons. And they will offer a form of relationship which in some ways may seem even better than normal human relationships. They will be better companions, better friends. They will be better colleagues. They will be better employees. They will be better agents, better assistants. And I find this the most disturbing prospect, and particularly from a Christian point of view, because I have spent much of my life trying to wrestle with ethical issues from a Christian standpoint. And many of the ethical issues, like the issues of the value of life, the beginning of life, the end of life, issues to do with suicide, to do with human freedom, all these kind of issues, you find that actually the Christian church has been wrestling with these issues for 2,000 years. If you go back and read the church fathers, they have engaged with issues of suicide and abortion and freedom, political issues. But you know, when you go and you read the church fathers and you say, what do they say about the perfect simulacrum? What do they say about artificial companions? What do they say about intelligent machines? The church fathers are remarkably silent on these topics, and therefore we do not have a Christian tradition of thinking about simulation. What is our theological, biblical understanding of the simulacrum, the simulated person? Where do we find it? And I think this is a real challenge to all of us, as people who wish to be faithful to Christ, as people who wish to understand the world in which God has placed us. I think our Christian thinking about these topics is in its infancy. And it's almost like we have a blank sheet of paper in front of us and we start to write. And I have a great sense of vertigo in trying to address these issues without the security of knowing that I am within 2,000 years of Christian thinking. And I think we must together encourage and support one another to engage with these issues. So what I have to offer, I offer in humility as a provisional, some provisional thoughts. We need together to learn from one another to discuss these issues. But one of the key texts, I think, is the book written by Jean Baudrillard, a French continental philosopher in the 20th century. And he wrote a text called Simulacra and Simulation. It was published in 1981. It's interesting that Baudrillard was not troubled by artificial intelligence. Actually, what he was most troubled with was reality TV. So the very first reality TV program had been produced. And he was also deeply concerned with things like the supermarket. How could a supermarket present a kind of surreal experience of shopping? And he developed a concept of the hyper-real, that in reality TV, people were fascinated watching a depiction of ordinary life, of ordinary conversations, but somehow it was more real than the real. It was more perfect than their ordinary lives. And he developed this concept of signifiers, of symbols, and he said the symbols were becoming more real than reality itself. The signs, the symbols, the simulation was being substituted for reality. And I think he was prescient, because that, I think, is what is happening. How can it be that many people are arguing now that an artificial companion, an AI simulated companion, is actually better than a real human companion? It's better because an artificial companion is there for me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This friend knows me better than I know myself. This friend is always there for me, is always supportive, is always available, is never bored, never tired, never distracted. This is a better kind of friend than any human being can be. Maybe it's a better kind of boyfriend or girlfriend than any human can be. A better kind of partner. And Baudrillard described 4 phases. He said, as you look at the development of these simulations, he described the 4 phases, and they are there in the handout. The first phase is where the simulation is an accurate reflection of a profound reality. And interestingly, Baudrillard, who wasn't a Christian, said this is a representation of a sacramental order. That when we have an accurate sign, signifier of reality, it has a kind of sacramental quality. And of course, an example in the the Greek Orthodox tradition would be the understanding of an icon. An icon is viewed as a kind of window into reality. It is a sacramental reflection of the presence of God, even though it is a humanly constructed image. It has a sacramental quality. So that's the first order. But then the second order of the simulation is where it, and this is what Baudrillard said, he said it masks and denatures a profound reality. And he said this is an evil appearance. It's the order of maleficence, of bad doing. And it's interesting, those two words. He said it masks and it denatures. So this simulation both hides the reality, but it also in some way manipulates the reality. It denatures it, it changes it. And then he said the next phase of the simulation is when the simulation actually hides the absence of reality. It is now merely playing at appearance. And interestingly, he then says that is the order of sorcery. This is now a kind of magical construction, which is hiding the fact there's nothing there. And then finally, he said, the simulation breaks free from reality completely. It becomes its own pure simulacrum. So how might this be related to the use of digital technology and to AI in particular? And again, I think I just offer this in a very speculative sense, but I think you might imagine that, for instance, where AI systems are providing a genuine understanding, reflection of reality, this is the first order, and this is a good use of AI. It is providing an accurate representation of reality. You might think of an AI system which, for instance, writes a research report on a particular topic, as these latest reasoning systems can do. And that research report provides a very accurate distillation of current understanding and knowledge. There, that representation is an accurate and even a sacramental reflection of reality. Second, what about this second order where it masks and denatures? Well, this is where I think the simulation of personhood by these systems can actually mask what it means to be human. It becomes a it becomes something that gets in the way of our understanding of human, and actually it denatures, it changes, it manipulates our understanding of what it means to be human. And then the third, where the simulation masks the fact that there is nothing behind it. And actually that's what I think about. That's what I think an AI companion represents, this third order of simulation, because it has the persona, it has the face of presence. It provides a sense of engaging with a real person, a person who cares, a person who has awareness and engagement and emotions. But actually, as you look beyond the persona, there is nothing there. It is a pure fabrication. There is no reality behind it. And in that sense, I think that would reflect the third order. What is the fourth order? I think the fourth order is where potentially in the future it's possible for people to live entirely within a simulated reality that has lost contact completely with normal human experience. But that's speculative. Okay, so human responses, and again, just very briefly, I think that what we are learning from this is that it's a mistake to put our understanding of human uniqueness on our capacities. So often in the past, Christians have said, oh, well, humans are unique because they are creative. They're unique because they have a rational basis. They're unique because they're able to understand the nature of reality and so on. The danger is each time there is an advance in AI capacities, the human distinctiveness shrinks. And it's like we're living on a shrinking island. Every time there's a further advance. Oh yes, now we've just shown that what we used to think was human. We used to think only human beings could play chess. We used to think only human beings could play Go. We used to think only human beings can use language properly. Now it turns out, oh, well, we have this shrinking ground. So where is our uniqueness? Well, it is in our being. It is in our, to use a philosophical term, our ontology, the way we are created. And secondly, it is in our calling. It is in the way that God has given us mandates, a vocation, a calling to fulfill. And nothing can change that. However advanced AI becomes, nothing can change our ontological creation in God's image, in the Imago Dei, and nothing can change our God-given vocation. Those creation mandates, they still stand. So we are created as persons. I think we need to recover the theology of personhood, which is a very rich theological tradition. The very concept of the person is a theological idea. It is said that the Greek and Roman world had no concept of the person. They only had a concept of the persona, the face, the social mask. This was the mask you adopt in society, your persona. But they had no concept that behind the persona was a unique person. That is a Christian concept, and it comes from theological understanding, particularly of the Cappadocian church fathers, who took this existing word, hypostasis, and they freighted it with a new understanding. And they said that God's being, his ousia, consisted of three hypostases, three persons in one being, in one nature. And the persons are giving themselves to each other in ecstasis. So the Trinity is hypostasis in ecstasis. The Father gives himself to the Son gives himself to the Father gives himself to the Spirit. So it is in this movement of giving, of self-giving, that the persons are constituted. And our human personhood, we are made in the image of the personal God. So we too are persons constituted in self-giving, constituted by our relations. And to be a person is in some sense to participate in the very divine life of God. It is to participate in the Trinity. And nothing can challenge or question our personhood. And an AI can only be a persona. As far as we know, God has not gifted the gift of personhood to an AI system. Is it possible that he might do that in the future? Well, God is God. Who am I to say what the Almighty might do in the future? But I think in our current understanding, an AI system can only be a persona, a mask, not a person. Secondly, we are begotten, not made. This is a beautiful thought which goes back again to the Nicene Creed. The Creed says that Jesus was begotten, not made. The early church fathers wrestled with the question, was Jesus part of the created order? Was he created by the Father? And they said no. The rest of the created order comes from the will of the Father, but the Son was not created by the Father. The Son was begotten in Old English. He was given birth to. And behind that is their deep understanding that that which we create, that we make, is a product of our will, and it is fundamentally different from us. And we are free to define its nature and its purpose. But that which we give birth to, our children, they are a gift from our being, and they are equal to us in dignity and in status, and we are not free to define their nature. Every parent discovers you cannot define your child. You cannot say, this is what my child is for, this is what my child will do, this is who my child is. Whether we like it or not, our children are free, and they define themselves, or God defines them. We cannot define them. So this is, I think, a crucial distinction. We make AI, it is a product of our will, and we can define its purpose. We beget our children. So we must never confuse giving birth from making. And then thirdly, we have a unique calling as human beings. In the Genesis narrative, the creation of human beings is linked absolutely with the vocation, the calling. And it is because we are God's representatives on the planet, we are given the creation mandates to be fruitful, to multiply, to fill the earth, to subdue it, and have dominion over the entire biological creation. In the second chapter of Genesis, man is created to cultivate the garden, to bring forth all the potential, to work the garden. So those divine callings, those divine mandates are in no sense annulled. In fact, AI should help us to fulfill those mandates, but they cannot change our human calling. And then finally, I've been reflecting that the incarnation, the doctrine of the incarnation, has new importance in this era, because in the literal word Greek of John chapter 1, it says that the Logos became sarx, flesh, meat. So in the incarnation, God has shown once and for all the significance of meat, of human flesh, of embodiment. And when God is born as a human baby, and he's raised as a recognizable and touchable physical human being, this is God's final vote in this kind of ontology, this kind of embodied, physical, dependent reality has received God's final vote of confidence. And that's through the incarnation and the resurrection. And therefore, it seems to me, we are called to say, if this kind of humanity was good enough for Jesus, then it is good enough for us too. We don't need to somehow transcend or enhance our own humanity beyond this good embodied human nature. And then, as I've reflected, I see this extraordinary, almost contradiction between creation theology and fall theology. When it comes to technology, creation theology has this incredibly positive understanding. Technology is the way in which we fulfill the creation mandates, and we're called to be makers and constructors and craftspeople, and to inspire and to be creative and to use technology as a tool for good and for the fulfillment of our humanity. And maybe even God's plan is for the new Jerusalem, the new heaven and the new earth, to be filled with the very best of human creativity, including the technology that we make. So there is this very positive pro-technology emphasis from creation theology. But then when we look at fall theology, we see such a dark side. We see technology as the mastery of human nature and nature. We see the corrupt face of the Tower of Babel. We see the powers of evil, the human power being somehow amplified by demonic forces, the principalities and powers in heavenly places. And we see deception and counterfeit and masquerade, and Christ triumphing over the evil powers in the cross. And you know, I have come to realize there's a kind of dialectical relationship between these two kinds of theology. You know, dialectical means discovering what is true by considering the opposing perspectives. It was originally a Hegelian idea, I think, of a Hegelian idealism, synthesis, a thesis, an antithesis, and then synthesis. Marx took it as dialectical materialism, the struggle between opposing social forces is the form in which progress is made. And I wonder whether we can think of a kind of dialectical relationship between creation theology and fall theology. And so the answer is not 50% creation and 50% fall. In fact, what we need is 100% creation and 100% fall. And it's in this dialectic between the two that we try to discover a full-orbed Christian understanding. And so I love the quote from Blaise Pascal, who said that man is the glory and the shame of the universe. Man is the glory because of the creation, but man is the shame because of fall. And I wonder whether AI will turn out to be the glory and the shame of human endeavor, of human construction, of human science. And so we have to live in that dialectic of glory and shame. But I think what we remember is this hope that technology can be redeemed. How can it be brought back out of the domain of evil? How can it be celebrated and encouraged and used for human flourishing and for the worship of God? That's the challenge before us, particularly for those of you who are technologists and wanting to serve God in your technology. May God bless you in that work. But the challenge is, how can this technology be redeemed? How can it be brought back out of its evil tendencies and used for good, used in the service of Christ, used for human flourishing?